Hey friends, welcome back to a super fun nightlight. So today we're doing things a little bit differently. We're not having nightlight Zoom, but that's okay because we wanted you guys to do something really fun at home as a family. So tonight we're continuing our series, Experiments in Faith, and you guys are gonna get to do your very own experiment at home with your families, which is gonna be so cool. So 2 weeks ago when we started out this series, we talked about the story of creation, how in the beginning it was all God, it was all good, but then it all broke. But it was okay because the story wasn't over yet. God was going to send his son Jesus as the rescuer of all people. And we talked about how we can trust God because God made it all. God made us, he knows us, and he loves us. Tonight for Experiments in Faith, we are talking about the idea of obeying. So listening and moving to action with what God asks us to do. So I thought we could start with a little game before we get to our story and our experiment. So we're going to play a game where you have to practice listening and obeying. Are you ready? That game is called Simon Says. So Simon says, stand on up. Simon says, put your hands in the air. Simon says, clap your hands. Simon says, put your hands down. Simon says, stand on one foot. Simon says, stand on the other foot. Okay, you can put both feet on the ground. Hey, did you put both feet on the ground? Because if you did, you are out because Simon didn't say it. All right, but let's keep playing. All right, Simon says, put one hand in the air. Simon says, put the other hand in the air. Simon says, put both hands on your head. Simon says, put both hands on your hips. Simon says, put one finger on your nose. Okay, put your hands down. Did I get you that time? If you took your hand off your nose and put your hands down, you are out because Simon didn't say for you to. All right, Simon says, it's your turn to be Simon. At home with your family right now, play a quick game of Simon Says. You have 1 minute. Ready, set, go. All right, so how'd you do listening and obeying? Did you listen to Simon? Did you make it to the end of the game? You see, Simon Says is all about hearing the command and following through. You see, if Simon says for you to put your hands in the air, but you don't, you're out of the game because you have to listen and do what Simon says. And just like in Simon Says, God wants us to hear his words and obey them. Our story for today comes from the book of Genesis. So grab your Bibles and you're going to turn to the very first book of the Bible, Genesis. We're going to go to chapter 6 and we're going to read verses 9 through 22. This is the story of a guy who listened and obeyed God, even when it sounded like a pretty crazy command. So open up Genesis. We're going to chapter 6, verses 9 through 22 say this. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. Noah was the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, God saw that the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. God observed all this corruption in the world, for everyone on earth was corrupt. So God said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth. Build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar inside and out. The construction decks and sails throughout its interior. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Leave an 18-inch opening below the roof all the way around the boat. Put the door on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. Look, I'm about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on earth will die, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So enter the boat, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and female, into the boat with you to keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird and every kind of animal and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you and be kept alive. Be sure to take on board enough food for your family and for all the animals. So Noah did exactly as God had commanded him. So the story of Noah, one of my very favorites, shows what listening and obeying God is all about. You see, Noah, he trusted God. He loved God. It said that he walked in close friendship with God. Noah knew God and was friends with him. And because of that, Noah wanted to obey God when God asked him to do something pretty crazy. You see, in the time that Noah was alive and where Noah was living, there had not been crazy rainstorms. There hadn't even been rain. So when God told Noah to build a boat because God had plans to make so much rain that there was going to be a flood on the earth, I'm sure that Noah thought it was a little bit crazy. I mean, he had never even seen rain before. But Noah, he moved into action. He listened to God's words and then he did them. I don't think that God is going to ask any of us to build a giant ark anytime soon, but God does ask us to do some things that sound pretty crazy. You see, at Beach Point, we talk a lot about loving God and loving others, and that's because God gave us the first and most important command to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And I believe that some of the crazy things that God asks us to do, or the things that seem really crazy, all come from this commandment. You see, when God asks you to love one another, that means he's asking you things like this. He's asking you to love your brother, even though your brother just punched you. He's asking you to love your friends, even though your friends are starting rumors or saying they don't want to be friends with you anymore. He's asking you to love your family, even though you're fighting and you would rather be seeing any other person on the planet right now. He is asking you to love people that are hard to love. And that just sounds crazy. How am I supposed to love the school bully who is making fun of all my friends? And how am I supposed to love my parents when they keep bugging me to do chores that I don't want to do? You see, God asks us to do some pretty crazy things. Not like building an ark type of crazy, but definitely loving all people type of crazy. But when he asks us to do these things, when he asks us to listen and obey these words, we aren't in it alone. You see, when Noah was building this ark, God gave him specific instructions on how to do it. God was with him from the very beginning, and God's with us too. When he gives us instructions and tells us to love one another, even when it's hard, he's going to be with us. The Bible tells us that God is with us always and that nothing can separate us from his love for us. So when God asks us to do something crazy, like love our school bully or our siblings or people that are just flat out making us angry, we know that we can do this because God is with us and love comes from God. God has given us the tools to love one another deeply because he loved us deeply first. He sent his son Jesus to be with us, to forgive us for our sins when we didn't even deserve it in the first place. So, you can do hard things. You can do crazy things. You can listen and obey God because God is with you. He made you and he loves you and he's never gonna leave you. One of my very favorite parts of the story of Noah is the end part of the flood. Noah and his family finally make it to dry ground and they get out of the ark. They start to worship God because God had protected them, and God does something incredible, something beautiful and amazing. God puts the very first rainbow in the sky as a promise that he will never flood the earth again. And every time I see a rainbow, it reminds me that God keeps his promises. Yes, God keeps his promises that he's not going to flood the entire earth again like that, but he also keeps other promises too. In the Bible, it tells us that God's love can never be separated from us, that he's going to love us always, and that is a promise. So whenever I see a beautiful rainbow, I think of God's promises. I remember that God knows me, loves me, and is with me. And I can't even imagine how beautiful that very first rainbow must have been. You guys, the first rainbow ever in existence made by God, it must have been so beautiful. So I thought tonight we could make our very own rainbows. And you guys can make one at home too when we're done with this video, but take a look. I put some milk inside of this bowl and I got some food coloring and some dish soap, which I put in a little cup so it'd be easier for me to get to. So I'm gonna take some beautiful colors. I'm sure there was lots of red and obviously blue and green and yellow in the very first rainbow that God made. So you're gonna take your colors and you're going to put them inside this bowl of milk. Let's get our yellow in there. Don't want to forget yellow. And then you are going to take your dish soap, which I told you I put in a tiny little cup right here. Can you see it? And you're going to put your finger in there and get some dish soap on your finger. And watch closely at this bowl of milk. Look at this beautiful rainbow. Do you see it starting to turn and move? This beautiful rainbow and the rainbow that God puts in the sky remind me that he keeps his promises, that he knows me, he loves me, and he's always with me. So tonight, when you make a rainbow at home with your family, I want you guys to talk about God's promises in your family. I want you guys to tell each other about a time that you knew that God loved you or that he was with you, protecting you. I want you to talk about a time when it was really hard to obey and listen to God's words, but you did it anyways, just like Noah did. Spend time together as a family, make your rainbow, keep adding dish soap and watching the colors swirl and twirl around, and have so much fun tonight as a family. All right, friends, I will see you on Sunday, and then next week is Camp I'm a Newmie. I am so excited. If you haven't had a chance to register, don't even worry. Check out this QR code right here. Take out your parents' phone, open the camera, and point it right at the QR code, and the registration link for Camp I'm a Newmie will pop up on your phone. It's not something you guys are going to want to miss. It's going to be so much fun. So many science experiments, way cooler than this one. So many Bible stories. We're going to discover the ways in which God is making us new. I can't wait to hang out with you guys next week. All right, have so much fun, and I will see you on Sunday. Bye.